Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Compass, the podcast where the worlds of digital nomads and paranormal investigators meet at the crossroads. I am your host, Eric Garcia, and today I have a very special guest I'm pleased to introduce. She is Ansley Lane, the Spooky Foodie. Now, Ansley started her TikTok page called Spooky Foodie in June 2022, and it was immediately a hit. She tracks down haunted restaurants and bars throughout LA where she shares true crime and ghost stories, eats crazy good food, and learns about the little known and paranormal side of Los Angeles history. She was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Her father was a Vegas true crime historian, and her grandfather was a professional high-stakes poker player, so she spent a lot of time at historic, not to mention haunted, hotels in Vegas. Growing up, she's always been sensitive to energies and the spirit world, a sensitivity that would lead her to playing with a Ouija board quite a bit, which led to things happening all around her home to the point where they had to have a priest come in to bless their house. But this didn't deter her from pursuing her passion for the paranormal and storytelling. She is a graduate of Chapman University, where she received a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Screen Acting with a minor in Criminology. These days, she proudly declares herself one of the biggest foodies in the world. Whether it's made in a Michelin star restaurant or straight from a truck on the street, all food is exciting to her. She is fresh from her most recent investigation at one of LA's most historic rock bars, the Whiskey A Go-Go, where she teamed up with our mutual paranormal homegirl, Tammy Merhab Chavez of the Hollyweird Paranormal Podcast. Ansley, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. How are you? It's so great to be here. I'm excited.
Yes. After our initial technical difficulties, hey, we can see and hear each other. That's awesome.
That is great. That's all we want.
Yeah, always seems to happen. So, so tell me, how did Spooky Foodie come about?
Wow. It was just kind of like it out of nowhere, honestly. Like I graduated from Chapman University, as you said, screen acting major. I was doing the acting thing for a while, living out here in LA, and it just didn't feel fulfilling for me, like getting those no's all the time and like waiting on other people. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something myself because at heart, I'm an entertainer and I'm a traveler and I love food and all this kind of stuff. So I thought about it and I was like, what are two things I love most in this world? And it's ghosts and food. And I remember my boyfriend was sitting in the car with me. He was like, why don't you go to like haunted restaurants and bars? And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even think of that. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. Like, let's try it. And we did. And the first bar we went to was in downtown LA to Clifton's. And I was, yeah.
I've heard about that one.
Yes, it is super haunted. I had no idea until I went there. Like, all the history was crazy. But we go and I'm really nervous. I've never done this kind of thing before. I have experience on camera and all that kind of stuff, but this was so new for me. And I did it. I posted it on TikTok. I cried for like an hour because I was so anxious about it. I was like, everybody's going to think I'm freaking weird. And then I woke up the next morning and it like blew up on TikTok and people were like, we need more. Like, let's keep us going, please, because this is so cool. And I felt like I found a community and I felt accepted in this weird passion that I have. And I have not stopped since.
Yeah, I remember you came up on the scene like with a bang because obviously especially in the online paranormal community, certain names pop up pretty regularly and yours started popping up left and right. I remember I think the first time I recall your name popping up was your podcast with Bridget Marcourt on Ghost Magnet.
Yes.
I'm like, who is this
Love
girl? Her. Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. That's one of my dreams. And Ghost Magnet's off the air now. Totally bummed.
Yeah, I know.
But that is amazing, your eyes. And from there, you went. I think you had a interview with Ryan Seacrest on his on-air radio program too.
Yeah, I've had a couple interviews with him. I think now every Halloween it's kind of a thing where like Ryan and I reconnect and I talk about the new haunted restaurants that I've learned about throughout the year. He loves it.
That's awesome. Okay, so I read about it, but the Ouija board and your house. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I have one question. Were you playing it alone?
Yes.
Oh, that's what all the movies. That's one thing all the movies get right. Never play alone.
I know. And it was so scary. I was so terrified. But at first I was like, hey, I'm talking to like a kid. like that's kind of how the conversation started. And then I kept doing it over and over again because I was just so like fascinated by it. And eventually just like the energy shifted in the house like a lot. I started seeing figures. Like it was really strange. Quarters were thrown off of my dresser in the middle of the night, which was terrifying. And then yeah, it was really strange. And we were going to move out of that house anyways very soon. So we didn't have to deal with it longer. But my dad's a Christian. He was like, we need to have like a priest in here or something. Like we
Yes.
need to bring someone in here because this is like really scary and it's like affecting us. So we did. I don't know if that actually helped because we moved out. So I didn't have an experience with whatever I might have conjured ever again. But he certainly thought it helped, but I'll never forget it. And I have not played with a Ouija. Actually, that's not true. I've played with a Ouija board a couple times after that, but I will never play it alone ever again. For
That's
sure.
me. Yeah, I know it's a controversial subject in the paranormal community. I mean, I am, for the most part, I'm like, no. But I saw a gentleman named Timothy Shaw use it at a Paracon a couple of years back, and he used it like a drill sergeant. He was like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really, I'll say this, I'm on the fence with it. I happen to own two. And because I own two, that's actually my sister's fault because she knows they kind of weird me out. So she got me two different Ouija boards. One is on the TV show Supernatural, and the other is Stranger Things. So these are two of my favorite shows, and they're gifts from my sister. So I'm kind of torn. But I've always, I'm on the fence. If it's used properly, and you open and close it out properly, okay, then maybe.
Yes.
And the people with you are being mature about it. Okay, then those are factors as well. But for the most part, there's a theory. Are you familiar with it's ideo? I can't think of the name. It's like a scientific theory. People say there's involuntary nerves in your fingers that
Oh,
actually move it. And it's like you have no idea that these nerves are moving it, so that's why most people think it's the spirit world. Are you familiar with that theory?
you know what? Like I haven't even really gotten into like the whole Ouija board kind of theory because like I just haven't used it and I have like no interest in it, but that is very interesting and that totally could be a thing, Like I was a kid and I thought it was real. I was like 9 when this happened and I fully
Oh,
believed that I was
oh
doing
my God.
something
Wow.
real, but
You were
yeah,
young. Wow.
I was young. I've been watching ghost shows since I was 6 years old. Like all night, every night, school night, staying up till midnight watching that kind of stuff. Like I've always been super into it, so I thought the Ouija board was like a cool thing to do.
Yeah. I've talked about other people about it before. The only real issue I have with it, I mean, I've told people, one, I don't like that it's promoted as a game. Okay.
Yes.
And two, because people are like, oh no, it's this, it's that, I've had no problems. I'm like, then you're lucky because really my issue is like, you have no idea if what you're talking to, not who, but what was ever human to begin with.
Yes.
So that's the thing. I'm like, I put the brakes on. No,
Yes.
but I notice you are a big fan of the Estes method. If you could share with our audience what exactly the Estes method is and why you favor that over other methods.
Yeah, I love the Estes method because you're using the spirit box. And in an investigation, in my opinion, when you're using like an SB7, like that classic radio spirit box, you
Mhm.
can't really hear what they're saying. Like you can try and plug a speaker into that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
it's
Those,
just so hard to listen.
oh yeah.
And
Oh my God. Those
so
things are annoying. The static is like, oh my God.
it's too much. Like I don't know how anyone ever, finds anything until like post production when you're really looking, but in the investigation, you kind of want to get to like the root of what's going on or the root like of the issue at hand or the person who's there, So I like the Estes method because you have someone with noise canceling headphones on plugged into that radio, you completely submerge them in those radio waves and you put like the face mask,
Blindfold.
the eye mask on. Yeah, the blindfold. So all they can hear is what's coming from the spirit box. They cannot hear what we are saying, what questions we're asking them, And so when they're doing it, they can't hear us. So it kind of shows proof when they answer if it's kind of accurate to the question we asked. Like it's, I feel like there's truth to that. You know what I'm saying? No one's making anything up. It's all happening naturally. And I think the Estes method is also cool for like channeling purposes, because if you're under for a long time, your personality starts to change. And like, I think your psyche, like you start to like sense things that spirits are feeling or what they're about to say. And it's crazy. It's kind of like hypnosis in a way, which is what I really like about it.
I've never thought of it that way, because in a sense, you're sitting right there. You're the one-on-one communication. You are channeling them in a way. Wow, I never
You
considered.
are. When we did the ghost investigation at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, my friend Zachariah the Witch, he went under and did the Estes method. And when you watch the investigation, you'll see his personality change like 5 or 6 times. There were like 5 or 6 different people that were talking through him. He would be laughing uncontrollably, and then he would talk like in like a weird mobster voice. And then all of a sudden he got chills, and then his energy got lower, and he was like, yo. And it was like different spirits and their personalities coming out through him, because he was channeling. Like he completely submerged himself in the Estes method.
And he's like an intuitive to begin with, isn't he, or something like that?
Yes. So what I've also seen is that the Estes method with like highly intuitive and psychic people, like it works really well, because they can also channel during it and sense different things like in their hypnosis, if that makes sense.
Yes. But your usual go-to subject for the Estes method is your boyfriend, Nate. It's like,
I know.
Every video, I'm like, poor Nate. I'm like, put somebody else in those headphones,
Well,
just for one episode. I mean,
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was gonna ask, because the Clown Motel, I just watched that yesterday. That's so cool. I stayed there one time, actually, on a whim. But the Clown Motel investigation was pretty good, and the other one, I think the Whiskey A Go Go as well. But
yes.
I see these, and he's like using, he's in the headphones almost every time, and I gotta wonder. I mean, has he had any issues with spiritual attachments when he's gone home or?
So we both have one, and that is a super long story. I will tell you about it. But when it comes to Nate and the Estes method, it's really strange. He has a lot of psychic abilities that we both didn't know about. And he, even when he's using the Estes method, he's like, I'm getting words like told to me. Like I'm not even hearing them in the box, but like I'm also starting to channel and stuff. And it's crazy to like see him do that. And we went to an abandoned Sears recently, and we didn't even use equipment for the first half, because he had like these psychic, I don't know. He's psychic, because he was like, somebody died in here. Like, I'm going to show you where you died. And then the spirit was like, no. And then he was like, your name was Debbie. And then it said Debbie on the spirit box. It was crazy. Like he's becoming psychic as well, which is like so hard to explain right now, because we're both trying to figure out how psychic he is. But I don't know if this has come from him doing the Estes method so much or not, like, and opening himself so much.
So he's become more attuned since YouTube been doing these investigations.
Yes.
He wasn't always like this before.
No.
Ooh. And I can see, because he's open to it as well. I mean, he's open, not, by open, I mean, he's open to trying it. He's open to everything you're throwing at him. He's like, okay, he's like, what's Aaron? He's like your Aaron from Ghost Adventures.
Literally.
They're always locking Aaron in a cave somewhere, or put him in the darkest room with the scariest things. Like, let's put Aaron in there. Nate is your Aaron.
Nate is my Aaron. He's like my little, guinea pig. Just kidding. But he loves it. He actually has a good time. He finds it fascinating. He never really believed in spirits as much as me, but going on these, he's like, whoa, there is something out there. And yes, going back to the spiritual attachment thing, Nate and I had a spiritual attachment for 9 months when we first started ghost investigating, and we went to a cemetery in South Carolina when we were visiting his family. And we went to the cemetery, and it was 6 of us. It was like his brother, his girlfriend, his brother's girlfriend, and then his sister, and then me and him. And we went, and none of them believed in ghosts. And we used a spirit box, and we kept hearing this music come through. It was like, da-da, da-da. And we were trying to play Find My Grave, Find Your Grave. And
I'm sorry. What was that?
We
That's
were
a
trying to, yes, we
that's
were
a new
playing
game.
Find Your Grave. Yes, through the spirit box. We were trying to find somebody's grave. And we started talking to this music teacher. And through yes and no questions, he kept going, da da, da da, da da. And then 30 minutes go by. We don't hear the da da's anymore. So we're like, all right, started calling Music Man. All right, Music Man, we're going to go home. And after 30 minutes of silence, we hear a da-da, like goodbye. And everyone in that group was like, holy crap. Like, that is not a coincidence. Like, that was insane. We
Now,
go home.
so that's
Yes.
the origin of Music Man, because you
Yes.
referenced him in one of your videos. I'm like, ooh, I got to ask her about Music Man. Now, was this
Yes.
filmed or was this prior to the whole YouTube thing?
It was prior to the YouTube thing. It was me kind of just like starting out investigating and playing with things, which I shouldn't have done that because I wasn't prepared at all. And now I know how to protect myself. But back then I was just kind of like, okay, let's do it. So we come home a few days later and I'm working at an art gallery at the time, which I thought was haunted. So I turned on the same spirit box. And as soon as I opened the spirit box, it goes, da-da. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe everything that we did was fake, because I was like, maybe it's just like something with the spirit box going, da-da. But anyways, I was freaked out. I turned it off. And then a few weeks later, we go with my friend, with Tanya, Tammy, and Martine to the Sassafras Saloon. I don't know if you know any of them, but they're kind of some of Tammy's friends, and Tanya's a psychic. And
Martine, is he the guy with the long hair and the beard?
yes,
Is
yes,
he Fluffy's buddy?
yes,
I
yes,
thought I recognized him. I saw him in one of your videos. I'm like, is that the guy with Gabriel Iglesias that he always makes fun of?
yes.
I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I didn't know. Oh, that's cool.
He's into it. I love him. He's awesome. And so we went to the Sassafras Saloon and we start hearing this da 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 again and again. And Tanya's like, you have something with you, to me and Nate. You have something with you. He died alone. He's a sad guy. He's not harmless, but like you should maybe get rid of him. And she said, I'm seeing 6 people in a group at a cemetery. That's what she said. Like, that's where you got him. And we
Oh,
were like,
wow.
yes, that is where we got him. And he keeps going da 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 over and over again.
So he's a new member of your crew.
He new member of my crew. Eventually I started to just use him in my ghost investigations to be like, hey, like, you're here, like, why don't you bring some of these ghosts out? Like, come on, like, help me out here a little bit. So that happened. And then we went to Griffith Park, and this was probably the most emotional part of it, was when we heard the Dana and we were like, Music Man, like, whatever. And then he goes, howdy, like, sounds very Southern. And then he goes, Music Man. I have that on camera. He says, Music Man. And I start crying. I'm like, you
Wow.
know that we call you Music Man. Like, you are an intelligent spirit. Like, you know that. And he goes, I'm proud of it. That's how he says, I'm proud of it. And he calls us family. And I know that this is all sounding like
Well,
scary,
I'm getting choked up
but
here.
yeah.
Well, it's not
I
scary.
know.
It's very touching. I'm like, oh my God, I can only imagine how that felt.
Yeah, it was. It gets better and better and better. This story is like a saga of 9 months. But so then we go to the Sassafras Saloon again. And Music Man, we recognize his voice at this point. I have all this on camera. He starts trying to send us a message. We don't know what that message is. I don't think we ever will, because now he's gone. But in that investigation, he starts saying 34, 34, 34, the number 34 over and over again. And we're like, what do you mean? Like, he's not telling us what it means. And so I go on an Instagram live the next night and I talk about it, and I have the spirit box on, and in front of my entire audience, he starts saying 34, 34, 34. And I was like, guys, see, like, this is real. I don't know what he's trying to say to me. We never figured it out. And it was, I don't know what message he was trying to say to us. Like, I looked up like a plot number 34, maybe like where his grave is, or
Well, there is a theory that really there is no reference for time in the spirit world, and I mean, there are some theories, what may be present to us could be past or future to them. So
yes.
34 could be something that comes up down the road. you never realize that because there's no sense of time. I would, want to understand in the spirit realm.
Yeah.
So it may yet to be, or you could be looking up something from your past and that number could pop up. It could be either way.
It could be anything. And we haven't really figured it out yet. We don't really think too much about it because it could be so many theories. So, but it was real. And that number, he definitely wanted us to know that number for a reason.
Wow.
But then Christmas comes around and Nate is shopping at a thrift store. And my favorite band, I love the Misfits, love them so much. Like I have a lot of their vintage stuff. And he goes to the store and in Misfits font, there's this random t-shirt in the back that says Music Man.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
wow.
It gets better. It gets better.
I can tell you're kind of emotional about this. I can see.
I am because I feel like people see spiritual attachments as something bad, but I never thought that he was bad. Yes, he was a little sad, but I think he attached to us for a reason. I think there was a reason why, like, he wanted to stay on earth. Like he wanted to feel something, like maybe a lesson that he wasn't taught yet. Like he was stuck in this purgatory because he wanted to figure out something. I'll never know, but that's kind of what my gut feeling about him is. It's like he wanted to live something before he passed on, like he fully passed on.
A theory I have about that, I mean, and this is, again, I've been watching your videos and you with your friends, when you go to, whether you're in an Arby's or you're in a graveyard, it's like I'm watching, and a lot of paranormal YouTube channels are tough to watch because when it's a group of people, a lot of times they can be really immature, they can be annoying, but your group isn't. You're all joking and laughing around, and you're I don't even like the ones. There's a couple on there I can't remember their names, or they were only on there once or maybe twice. But your friends, they were respectful. That's the thing that popped into my mind. I'm like, okay, they're being respectful in this graveyard. They're not goofing around and being disrespectful. Especially at the graveyard next to the Clown Motel. And maybe he just saw the upbeat energy that you and your friends have, that you're not being disrespectful, that, there's some good energy there. So maybe that is what attracted him. I mean, that's just a theory off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, because then, because the Clown Motel was the last ghost investigation we ever heard of Music Man. But before that, I have to say one more thing about the t-shirt. Oh, Nate gives me the t-shirt for Christmas. I get really emotional out of nowhere. I don't know why. Come home, a couple weeks later, I turn on the spirit box. I'm in like this vintage store. And turn on the spirit box and I hear him. He goes, Donna. I'm like, hey, whatever. And he goes, present. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? He goes, Christmas present. And I wish I had it on camera, but I hope at this point you believe me that I'm not lying. I cried. I was like, oh my God, this spirit is so intelligent and pays attention. And it was crazy. And then at the Clown Motel, he was very interactive with us in the beginning. And then he was gone. He doesn't show up anymore. And Nate kind of feels like maybe he liked it there. Maybe like the spirits there are kind of like of his era and he like just wanted to stay there, or maybe he just let go. He was like, they don't need me anymore.
Wow.
Or I don't know, but it was 9 months and I didn't have to like have an exorcism or any of that kind of thing,
Cleansing.
Or a cleansing. Like I didn't need any of that. He just left. And I don't know. We bring it up a lot. We're like, we kind of miss him sometimes.
I was gonna say, I'm like, wow, you got your own spiritual crew member.
Yeah.
Of your team. You should do like a tribute episode.
Yeah.
Like everything you just told me. And with the T-shirt on and the whole story. That is so cool. And which kind of like, how did that work? Let me just make sure.
I know that's a really heavy story.
Yeah. And it kind of leads now. When you're dealing with real life tragedies and haunted histories, how do you navigate the ethical considerations of sharing these stories, especially when they involve such sensitive topics?
I mean, I are you talking about like in a ghost investigation or just like
Right.
talking about it in general?
Both, because I mean, when you go into the history, a lot of times it's a very tragic story. More often
Yes.
than not, it's a tragic story of why there's a ghost present or a spiritual attachment. Not always,
Mhm.
but more often than not. Do you find it tough navigating sharing these stories? You know,
I don't find it tough sharing them because I love talking about ghost stories and things happen, tragedies happen, and I'm just doing it out of education. Like I want my audience to know what's going on. Like I want them to have context. Like obviously there are a lot of tragedies that happen in these places that I go to, but when I'm doing the ghost investigation, I don't like talking about the tragedies that happen to them. I
Mhm.
kind of just want to get to know them
you,
and be
you don't dwell on it.
respectful. I don't dwell in it and I don't really want to bring it up because I find that to be disrespectful. Imagine like walking into someone's house and you're just like asking them about all their trauma. Like, are they really going to open up to you? You know what I mean? So I kind of go in the way of like, who are you? Like, where did you work? What did you do? How are you feeling right now? And just like talking to them, like at the Bourbon Room, when we did the ghost investigation there's an actress who died of an overdose in the bathroom and she haunts the green room. And we went down there and she at first didn't really want to talk to us, but then I was like, "Hey, I have cocktails. Like you want to just drink with us?" And the dead bell we had, which is like an EMF, started going crazy and like we were offering her like 5 different cocktails to try and we had the bartender with us talking about her to us and she started to go crazy and we were all making jokes together and laughing and then the ghost would literally chime in on the bell and like it was fun. It was like a conversation.
I love that.
It wasn't us pinning our attention onto the ghost being like, what happened to you? Why'd you overdose? Like, blah, 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 blah. We were talking about her and we used the equipment as kind of like a way for her to like be like, yes, yes. But we weren't just like asking her questions and pressuring her. We were talking about her.
You were
And
hanging out.
that's, exactly,
You were hanging out with her.
exactly.
I love that.
And, I make that joke all the time. It's like I don't ghost hunt, I ghost hang because like we're just
you
hanging out.
you need to patent that and put it on a Spooky Foodie T-shirt.
I will.
Okay, I mean, I'm telling you, there's a merchandising angle right there.
Yeah.
And I love that approach, and I mean that's what I could see in a lot of your videos, because the all the ghost hunting, especially the TV shows on Discovery, Ghost Adventures, and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Ghost Adventures fan. I watch it all the time, and some of the other shows, but on YouTube, everyone wants to be the next Zach Baggins, and so they emulate him, and they're like over dramatic, and they immediately want to get it has to be a demon in there. I mean, I zip past those videos. As soon as I see a demon in the title, I'm like, all right, what's next? But
Yeah.
and I'd like your approach, because it's like, hey, I'm here, you're here, cool, let's hang. I mean, I'm telling you, that's a T-shirt in the making right there.
I will because that's like kind of that's everything. Like that's me as a paranormal investigator and I get the best evidence from doing that. It's just like treating them like we're hanging out with friends, like we're having a good time. Like if they want to tell me something traumatic, like cool, but I'd rather just get the evidence and be respectful because they open up to me even more when we do stuff like that, you know.
Now,
Um
since you've been doing this, since you've gone all out into the paranormal investigation, even before YouTube, um, since you've been doing this, have your personal views about the afterlife changed or
yes,
evolved, or they have?
absolutely. I always believed that there was like some sort of afterlife, but I don't think I believed it as intensely until now, until after I did the Rainbow Bar and Grill ghost investigation. That was insane. Like the Rainbow Barn Grill has a lot of bar regulars that haunt the place. And Lemmy from Motorhead seems to drop in as well because they have his ashes there. They have like
Wow.
his they have like a whole memorial for him outside. They change his cigarette there every single day. And when they messaged me about their spirits, they're like, we believe this spirit is here named One-Eyed Jack. And he used to serenade all the ladies. And he was a great guy. And we believe he's here because we hear him. And then the owners, and then some other, like, I think there's like a chef or somebody that they were talking to me about. They feel their energy there. And so they wanted me to come and see what we got. And we talked to every single person that they believe haunted the place, including One-Eyed Jack, because he goes on and says One-Eyed Jack. And then the owner comes on and he's like, downstairs in a frame, all of us are there in a picture. And we go downstairs and they're all there, like behind glass, they said. And all of that was true. And they said, like, it's a good home. And Zachariah felt like he was getting tickled. And apparently there was a worker that used to work there that used to tickle people. And when Lemmy came on, it was intense, and he didn't want to talk to us at first, but he said, yo, I want a cigarette. And right before that, we saw someone outside change Lemmy's cigarette. And if you watch the video, you'll see the different personalities. And so
Now,
yes,
when you say change the cigarette, I mean, where's the cigarette located? I mean, is
outside.
there a statue, or?
There's a statue where they change his cigarette.
Wow,
the regulars do it every day. And
that is cool.
it made me so emotional because it really made me believe that we're never really gone. I've never felt that before so intensely. And after the video was released, a staff member from the Rainbow Barn Grill like messaged me, and she's been working there for decades. And she was like, we're all like crying because we know each person you talk to, we knew exactly who it was, because Zachariah was channeling so hard. He was getting all these personalities down and the way they were talking. And she was like, this is this person talking. This is why this happened. Like, this is why this person said this. And it was like kind of relief for them, I think, to know that they were there. It was wild.
Wow. And, you know, I mean, one of the things that really, to me, stands out about your channel that I really like is your appreciation for the history of Los Angeles, and not just the Hollywood stuff, but, you know, the real flesh and blood people who built the city. You know,
Yes.
and when, you know, you go to all these places and you talk about the history, and it's like, you know, I mean, you're from Las Vegas, but it's like,
Yes.
You're practically an LA historian at this point.
I know.
You know, and one thing that really stood out to me when I was doing my research, I'm like, wow, I need to ask you about this, is the amazing work that you've done to help preserve and save one of the oldest and most historic restaurants in Los Angeles, La Golondrina on Olvera Street.
Yes.
Please share that with us.
Yeah, so La Golondrina is, as you said, the oldest Mexican restaurant in Los Angeles on Olvera Street. They've had a really tough time, I guess, with like this plumbing issue that is too expensive to fix. And they're trying to get help from the city about it, because apparently like the plumbing issue like isn't actually on their land, and the city owns Olvera Street. So it's a whole thing, and the city saying, no, it's your fault. Like, you got to fix it. And they just can't afford it because they haven't been open. And it's just like, there's so many layers to the issue that, you know, I really hope that they can get out of this, but it's a really vigorous battle with the city that they're getting into right now. And they've spent a lot of money on attorney fees. You know, I helped raise the money so they could spend that on attorney fees. And
yeah, and if you could share how exactly you did that, because I thought that was awesome, the method you went, the way you did.
I made friends with the family who owns La Golondrina because I did a video about them before, and then I heard about what was going on, so I DM'd them. I was like, okay, I'm going to help you. Let's see if we can get you open again, or at least I can try, you know. And he explained the battle to me, and it's just like, again, it's so many layers. Like, I don't even want to say anything incorrectly because there's
LA
so
City,
much.
Yeah, and you have LA City politics, which is like, don't even get me started on that one.
Yes, there's a lot of weird things. And so I just was like, you know what, I'm going to use my platform to help, like at least just help them a little bit, because their family's been on Olvera Street for so long. He used to sell candy at one of the stands. Like they've been there forever. Like their family are like OGs, and then they got
I
La Golondrina.
I ate there once years ago, and I can tell you flat out, La Golondrina has the best salsa in Los Angeles anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, I mean it's like its own separate food group. I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to take it home in a gallon jug. Their salsa was amazing. Oh my
Oh, that sounds amazing. I know I've never eaten there, which is what
god!
made me upset.
and
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 yeah.
maybe you're shy about it, but I will share this because it's so awesome. Because of your sharing on your platform, you got like 1.3 million views on it, and you were able to help to raise over $30,000 to go towards their legal fees to help get this restaurant back on its feet. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just that. I read that. I'm like, oh my god, because that is doing something that's a rarity these days. Is you're using your platform really for something good to help others. And
Absolutely.
when I saw that, I'm like, this is not just someone, oh, going in with the camera, oh, there's a ghost, oh, no, you're in there, helping people. And they quoted you were quote I love a quote you had. It was along the lines of, I might mess it up here. You said history doesn't have to be gentrified. History can be innovated. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
I said that to the board of Olvera Street. I know which quote you're talking about now. Because they want to evict them, and so I said that at the end of my speech to the board of Olvera Street.
Oh, okay, here it is.
And
You said history can be innovated. It does not
it
have to
doesn't.
be taken away.
Yeah, because it's true. We should work together to like keep these buildings and these historical properties in Los Angeles like going. Like it doesn't mean that they have to look old and decrepit, but like don't tear them down, don't remove them from society and like act like they were never there just to put up a new high rise, or like, you know what I'm saying, or a rooftop bar or whatever. Like use the architecture you have, because that's what's built this city, you
I
know?
mean, I think you said the building itself has been there since the mid 1800s.
Um, yeah, like that long. And then there's a fireplace in there that's super old. I don't know where it's from, I forget, but it's super old too, like crazy old, and you feel it in there.
Yeah, I mean, given the history there and its location, it's literally the heart of the city. Everything else built up
Yeah.
around it. I mean, I don't know if you would even have, I mean, Olvera Street. I mean, that is, if you want to know about Los Angeles, the history in one location, go to Olvera Street. This is where it all started, and
Yeah,
everything, and the rest of these obnoxious buildings show up afterwards. But this is where it started. This is the heart of Los Angeles.
I agree. And I talked to a lot of the vendors on Olvera Street, and they all believe that something needs to be changed there, because right now it just feels like a tourist trap, and it's just the
Mhm.
same thing over and over again, and all of the families that are renting the properties or like have the properties on the street want to innovate, like they want to start doing more, but I guess the city isn't listening, or they're not taking it seriously. But they want to change things up. They want to sell different things. They don't want to just keep selling the same thing over and over again. Some of these restaurants want to innovate and do like better food or different kinds of food or and live music. And so that's what I really loved about the owner of La Golondrina. He wanted to innovate the street as a whole. And so, but it's just not happening right now.
The work you've done is,
Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you straight to your face. That's inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are just, that takes a good heart to say, you know what, and you even said it. It's like in the interview, you said, a lot of people, a lot of content creators will shy away from something like this because it's difficult, and you're like, well, that's part of the job. I'm like, wow, this girl is like out there. That's part of the job, to share all this out there. And if you have a platform where people can listen to you and contribute, which they have, and you have proven that, you can say, look what some people did. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
That is just
Yeah.
amazing. You have a good heart.
Thank you.
You really do, and part of that, I mean, so your content, uniquely blends true crime, ghost stories, and food. So how do you choose these locations, and how do you balance the different elements in your video? Because you got a little bit of everything in there.
I know. For like my reels, my TikToks, my short forms, I I research everything. I walk around downtown and I walk into places and I'm like, is this place, do you have ghost stories? And then they say yes, and then they tell me, and then I film the food, and then I go home and I splice it up and I talk about the history of the building. I research the history of the places I'm going to, and so I do like history, food, and then the last part is ghost stories, like the best part. So that's kind of how I format my short form videos, and then for YouTube, I go as long as I need to. I want to highlight the food as much as possible because food is just as important. Like spending the time on the food, I believe like helps with the ghost investigating, in my opinion, because food is communion and there's something about community around food. And I feel like that riles up the spirits even more to want to talk to
Wow.
us. Whenever I have food or drinks around, it's kind of like an offering to these spirits and they get more active and they want
That
to talk more,
That's a
you know?
very wow. It's impressive because that's actually a very old tradition in so many cultures. With especially the one that comes to mind, Dia de los Muertos.
Yes.
On the Day of the Dead, when all these families go to cemeteries to visit their loved ones, they'll bring tamales, they'll bring tequila, they'll bring little
Yep.
dips. I mean, it's just something to share. And so that's just instinctively that you do that. It's just that's a very old tradition. That's wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. And I've always loved Dia de los Muertos. Like I really have. I've gone to a lot of those kinds of events. I've always been fascinated about, their perspective of death and how they offer things to their loved ones. I think that's like so beautiful,
Yeah.
and I want to portray that too because it's so true. Like that's respecting them. You're giving them something
Yeah,
to get something.
my sister is just like I won't say obsessed, but anything if she goes to like a garage sale or a thrift store and there's something related to it, she's like, "Ooh, yeah." So
Yeah.
she's really, I mean, if her whole room could look like that, it would, and it'd be like, she's got this thing about skulls. I'm like, okay, and she'll like decorative skulls, like in her restroom, she's got like a skull thing that's actually the soap dispenser. So if I have to use
I
her
have something like that too.
if I have to use her restroom, I'm like, okay, it's like I'm getting soap out of a human skull. So, but I think you and her would get along. I can totally see that.
Yeah, I have skulls everywhere.
You know,